Despite the last two national championships, the SEC remains the premier athletic conference across the country, so much so that a ton of guys transferred in to play in the 2025 season. Let's look at who are the best SEC transfers in 2025. Stick around. Let's talk about it. I want to hear your thoughts. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Welcome to Way Offsides. Oh, man. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Way Offsides. Do me a favor before we even get started. Head to that box down there and leave a comment repping your favorite team. We're going to be talking about a lot of people today, not just Alabama. So if you are not an Alabama fan, that is fine. You are welcome here. We talk heavy on Bama, but we talk about everybody else too. So leave a big Roll Tide, a War Room, whatever your war cry is down there in the comment section. While you're at it, it's really simple. You can also go hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And when you're done here, watch this whole video. You can follow us on social medias at Way Offsides. That's Way with 4 A's. 3's not enough, 5's too many, 4 just like in the word Alabama. The season is upon us. Things are moving quickly. We're like 26 days out from the college football season starting, and I am crunk as hell. What does that one guy say, the weird guy? Didn't mean to cuss. Excuse me for cussing or whatever. Sorry. I'm excited. I'm stoked. You've got fall recruiting about to kick up, which is always fun to follow guys going and watching games other places. We're going to be talking about a ton of that in the coming weeks. We're going to be doing live game predictions. We'll be doing live game watch parties. We'll be doing reactions, all sorts of fun stuff. You don't want to miss any of it. But with this season, one of the fun things about a new football season is learning all these people that are on your favorite team's roster. And with the transfer portal, it is now even more of a task to learn all these names as they bounce around the college football landscape from sea to shining sea and play different places. Now, the SEC, despite not winning the last two national championships, still remains the biggest powerhouse in college football. They're not far enough removed from their national championship reign to not be. Now, if that were to change this year, that conversation should start. Absolutely. The stranglehold that the SEC has had on college football, though, over the last 20 years has been so surmountable and so impressive that kids who go play at other programs are constantly transferring into SEC schools. Now, that doesn't mean that kids don't transfer out of SEC schools. They certainly do. But as we're going to focus heavily on the Southeastern Conference today, we're going to talk about some of the most impressive and best transfer players into the Southeastern Conference. Now, this list is going to be heavy on the skill position just because those are the fun guys to talk about. But we're not going to skip over some of the big nasties that often don't get the recognition they deserve. Now, in terms of the transfer portal, the SEC schools that really won in the transfer portal look like the usual suspects. LSU obviously had a really good transfer portal haul. Ole Miss, who seems to always have a really good haul out of the transfer portal, did. Missouri, and then Auburn, who really relies on the transfer portal to get what they need. Now, of those four, I feel like LSU and Auburn probably did the best in terms of addressing their legitimate need. Specifically Auburn, who we'll talk about heavy today, Auburn catches a lot of hate with Hugh Freeze at the helm, especially from Alabama fans. It feels like they're just they can't get over the hump, right? Well, I'll be honest, and I'm going to take my glasses off here. I think Auburn has the team to do that this year. Can they? I don't know. Hugh Freeze being the X factor. Hugh Freeze is a good coach. He has been a good coach, but he hasn't been able to produce any championship pedigree fruit, if you will. Even at Ole Miss, he hung his hat on beating Nick Saban And he did that. The only way he did that was by cheating. And so, delicious. In terms, I've got a little bit of a sore throat, so I'm sipping on something cold while we do this video, so excuse me. But in terms of the transfer portal, Auburn had a great haul. So we'll start there with a couple of big names that the Auburn Tigers pulled. Now, one of the best players, I think, right off the top of the bat is going to be previous 4-star wide receiver Eric Singleton Jr., the transfer from Georgia Tech, the 5'11", 195-pound or 90-pound wide receiver. He was, I believe, at one point the number one player in the transfer portal. Auburn, it didn't, to me, make sense for them to go get another wide receiver because they brought in the proclaimed Freeze 5 or whatever it was, Perry Thompson, Cam Coleman. Auburn has a really good wide receiving core. The problem is they needed a quarterback. We know last year the struggles, but so not only do they go and bring in Eric Singleton Jr., they go and get Horatio Fields from Wake Forest. But to supplement that, they go and obviously get Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma. Well, Jackson Arnold is interesting to me. When he beat Alabama, I literally tweeted out that night, he'll be the next quarterback at Auburn. And I was right. And that's why they went and got him. They went and got him. Hugh Freeze kind of said it during media days. They went and got him because he beat Alabama. Now, Jackson Arnold hasn't really been lighting it up throughout his career at Oklahoma. He's been benched a couple times. He hasn't really lived up to the 5-star hype he had coming out of high school. Oklahoma really didn't do a great job protecting him last year. Obviously, he didn't have the wide receivers. They were injury. I mean, I don't know that I've seen a wide receiving core that decimated by injuries ever in college football. So the verdict's still out on whether Jackson Arnold can compete and be productive as a quarterback at Auburn, not necessarily using his legs. A lot of people now, because of the Alabama game last year, they understand that Jackson Arnold can run, and they're going to key in on that. So can he beat them over the top? Auburn is going to play some seriously good secondaries this year, and so we'll see what they can do. Now, to do that, he needs time, right? So Auburn also goes and gets 4-star offensive tackle Xavier Chaplin, who I think is one of the better players to transfer out of the transfer portal. Comes out of Virginia Tech, the Hokies, 6'7", 323. Big dude, should be able to fit in and play right away. Now, keeping track of that offensive line, you're only as good as your interior offensive linemen, and these guys really don't get any love. But LSU got him a good one in Josh Thompson. He transferred in the 6'5", 301 interior offensive lineman, will be an immediate asset for the LSU Tigers, who have struggled really at the offensive line position. They struggled a lot in 2024. Garrett Nussmeier, bless his heart, I don't know how he made it through the season unscathed. But if that wasn't enough, they also go and poach an interior offensive lineman from Virginia Tech, just like Auburn, in Braylon Moore. So those are a couple of names of note right off the bat. Obviously, when we're talking about skill positions, Eric Singleton Jr. is going to be one of the big ones that transferred into the Southeastern Conference at Auburn, one that we're going to want to watch going through the season. Now, Oklahoma had a lackluster year outside of beating Alabama last year. So what do? They lose their quarterback to Auburn. They go and get one from Washington State and John Mater. He looks really good. If you've been watching fall camp videos, the guy actually looks solid. So we'll see how that goes. But they also got him some help in Jaden Ott, running back out of Cal. And so, I expect Oklahoma to be improved offensively this year. Again, I think Oklahoma was a better team than they looked to be last year. They just, sometimes the luck of the draw with injuries and things like that, they really, really, really struggled. So there's a couple of names right there. Thank you for bearing with me. A couple of names right there right off the bat. Now, in terms of Alabama, they did fine with the transfer portal. They didn't need to supplement a lot. They brought in some names, and we're going to look at them. We're going to look at the names that they did bring in. I think they got it. how many did they bring in? I can't remember. A lot. I think 12 altogether. So we're going to go through each one of these together. Tight end position. Alabama needed some help at the tight end position. They bring in Brody Dalton and Jackson Marco immediately there to help. They need to build some depth on the offensive line, so they bring in Jaden Hobson from South Alabama. Obviously, linebacker is a position of need. They bring in Hill Green over from Colorado. They bring in Kim Calhoun into that already vaunted secondary out of Utah. They bring in Dre Washington out of Louisiana. The 3-star running back that a lot of people are excited about, but they also, a big one that they bring in is Cam Dewberry from Texas A&M, the interior offensive lineman, 6'4", 330. Heard a lot about Dewberry leading into the season. Definitely looking forward to watching him. As well, they bring in a punter, and then Peter Nuts and another tight end. And the big one, Kelby Collins. Now, the name I haven't said that people aren't really talking about much right now because he joins a wide receiving room that is absolutely stacked, is 4-star wide receiver Isaiah Horton, obviously out of Miami. He had Cam Ward throwing to him last year. He's likely going to have Ty Simpson throwing to him this year. The 6'4", 205, big-bodied receiver, I think is right up there with the Eric Singleton type guy. I mean, player. This guy, I've watched a lot of him from last season. He didn't get the targets that he deserved, but the ones he got, he made them count. And I think Horton will be an amazing second or third option for the quarterback at Alabama. Obviously, he's going to join Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard. That wide receiving room is stacked, but he will be one of the best SEC transfers to come in to the Southeastern Conference, and he will immediately have an impact for Alabama in 2025. So moving on, so there you go. You have Alabama. Alabama really used the transfer portal to kind of supplement what they needed, as opposed to just building something insane, right? So fair enough there. Now, another team that kind of approaches the transfer portal that way is Georgia. Georgia doesn't necessarily primarily focus on bringing guys in from the transfer portal. They use it to supplement what they need. They go and get a running back out of Illinois, Josh McCray. They go and get them a pretty solid edge from down there. I think it was from Army. I can't remember. Elo Madozi. But the big one that they bring in, obviously, is Zachariah Branch out of USC. They also bring in Zion Branch. But Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver, coming out of high school, I remember there was a ton of talk about him. People were really excited. I think Alabama was kind of in the mix there in his high school recruitment. He ended up going to where he and his brother could play. Georgia made that happen when they both went into the portal. So they get a 2-for-1 there. They get Zachariah Branch and a safety, Zion Branch. Now, if we're talking about skill players, I think Zachariah Branch, Isaiah Horton, and Eric Singleton Jr. are probably the best three to enter into the SEC in 2025. I think all three are going to have serious impacts on their teams. They're going to open up offenses for their teams. But Georgia also goes and gets a 3-star wide receiver from Vanderbilt, Micah Bell. So Georgia approaches the portal very similarly to Alabama. And it's not a way to build a roster. It's a way to supplement your roster, to band-aid your roster. And I think that's a very, very smart and intelligent way to do it. Personally, that's just me. It's just what I think. I don't know. Texas, on the other hand, who played Georgia a couple of times last year and lost to Georgia every time they played. Horns down. They needed to do some supplementation as well. They use the portal very similarly. They don't necessarily have a problem with recruiting because Texas spends a lot of money, but they go and try to shore up their wide receivers with Emmett Mosley out of Stanford. They go and grab a linebacker out of Arkansas, a little SEC on SEC crime there, Brad Spence. They go into North Carolina and grab another defensive lineman, Travis Shaw, as well as Cole Brevard out of Purdue. So Texas has supplemented pretty well. Now, who else in the SEC likes to use the transfer portal? Let's look at Missouri. Missouri, another one of those big transfer portal teams. I think they're probably best get in the portal is going to be Damon Wilson. They got him over from Georgia. Again, SEC on SEC crime. 5-star edge, will make an immediate impact for the Tigers of Mizzou in 2024. Now, Ole Miss has worked heavily in the transfer portal, as they do every offseason. They kind of use the transfer portal more as a recruiting tool, as opposed to using it to supplement what they recruit out of high school and develop. It's panned out for them in the sense that they've been better, but they haven't won anything yet. We'll see if that ever happens. I have a theory that you kind of can't create long-term success that way. They notably go and get 3-star cornerback Antonio Kite. I believe he's out of Anniston. They get him from Auburn. They grab the Alabama wide receiver that everybody was really excited about last season, Caleb Odom, big, tall wide receiver. Didn't get much action at Alabama. Can't blame him. They also go and grab 3 guys from Arkansas in Jalen Braxton, Luke Hatz, and Patrick Kutas. There's going to be an interior offensive lineman, tight end, cornerback, respectively. But for me, the guy that really pops off the page for Ole Miss that I think will have an immediate impact is going to be Jalen Braxton. Ole Miss's secondary, notoriously, outside of their land shark years, hasn't been good. And that is a place that they're going to want to shore up. So LSU, let's go through LSU, and I'm going to talk about who I think is the best. Now, LSU put in some transfer portal work. There's a lot of SEC on SEC crime here. Donovan Green, tight end, they went and got from Texas A&M. Obviously, they go down and get the edge, Patrick Payton, out of Florida State. They even go into Texas and pull out Sadir Mitchell, defensive lineman. I think in terms of who's going to be the most impactful for LSU right off the cuff, I think it's probably going to be the UK wide receiver, the Kentucky wide receiver, Barry and Brown, they went and got. A lot of wide receivers transferred into the SEC, as well as Jamari Butler, the edge out of Nebraska, will likely have a pretty big impact. Of course, the interior offensive lineman, where he talked about Josh Thompson, he'll be a plug-and-play type guy. But LSU really focused on their secondary. They also got the who was the edge's name out of Florida? Jack Pern, I think. Jack Pyburn. They went and got Jack Pyburn out of Florida. That will be a somebody who has a significant impact as well for the LSU Tigers in 2025. I actually liked Pyburn coming out of high school. Liked him in the little bit of playing time he got at Florida. And so LSU, when we look at what they've done in the transfer portal, maybe that kind of lends its hand a little bit to the LSU hype. Again, I feel like you cannot build a championship caliber team out of the transfer portal. You have to do it via recruiting and those relationships, and then development, and then again use the transfer portal as a supplementation process. Now, again, I think the 3 best players that transferred into the SEC overall this year are wide receivers. I think it's Eric Singleton in this order: Eric Singleton Jr., Isaiah Horton, and Zachariah Branch. I think they're the best. I think Jackson Arnold could be in that conversation, but we got to see it on the field first. Obviously, there's a lot of really good offensive linemen. There's a lot of good scrimmage players that came in to SEC programs. So we'll see how it pans out. I would love to hear from you who you are excited to see. Who do you think is the best transfer to come into the SEC this season? Thanks for sticking around with me. As always, you guys are the friggin' best. You're the reason we do what we do. Say your prayers, read your Bibles, subscribe, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee too. Roll Tide.